Hey guys, I'm making this video because I wanted your opinion. I have noticed that lately, whether you're talking to Michael Moore liberals or Ron Paul libertarians, they seem to agree that life was better when they were children. When the baby boomer generation were children or were maybe 50, 60 years ago, life was better than it is today. They seem to have the nostalgia that the past was better, and today our life is being ruined. Of course, they disagree with what caused it. Your Ron Paul libertarian will most likely tell you that life was better then because there was less government, people had more freedom, and there was less taxes, and there was less government regulations. Some might even add there was less immigrants, too. Michael Moore people, the liberals, will probably tell you that life was better because there was less monetary manipulation, there was less capitalism, or capitalism wasn't as manipulative or free, or rich people were not allowed to exploit poor people as much as they are today. I disagree. I disagree with even the premise that life was better 50 or 60 years ago. But let's try that. Let's test how true that claim is, just based on what we know. Let's, for the sake of argument, say that today somebody is willing to live a 1950 lifestyle. That's right after the Second World War. So what do we know about the 1950s lifestyle? First of all, we know what we don't have, which is cell phones, internet, cable, and we had less imports from foreign countries. That means you had a much smaller selection of imported electronics and games and toys from either Asia or Europe. Fuel costs were probably higher, which meant you couldn't travel as easily or as cheaply. That's what we know we don't have. So let's look at what we did have in a typical family in 1950. Correct me if I'm wrong. One car per family, one TV per family, period. One working parent. If you're lucky, you get one camera. Your entertainment would be magazines, books, TV, or go out to the movies. When you have time to go on vacation, it's road trip or Europe. Maybe Asia. And if you're lucky, you would have a camera to take with you on a vacation. But one per family. Eating out was considered rare, and your options were not as many as you have today. Your options were probably limited to European or Asian, and Chinese probably literally meant one kind at one restaurant. Today, Chinese could mean Sichuan, or Cantonese, or Beijing, or what else do we have? Panda Express and pickup sticks. Your chances of buying clothing was either rare or that wasn't your priority. That means you probably had just enough clothing for you to live on. You wouldn't shop every month or every week. And buying clothing would be closer to fixing an appliance, which was only for necessity, not to budget for, not something that you plan ahead and feel like you need to spend, unless, of course, it was for work. The majority of Americans were either blue-collar jobs or farmers, and white-collar jobs were considered rare, which either a person had to be an achiever in school or had money to go to school to have gotten such an opportunity. So, let's say today, 2011, somebody wants to live the 1950s lifestyle. That means one car per house, one TV per house. I want to say no computer, but let's give you a computer. No cable, no cell phones, buying only clothing that you need. Only eating what you need to survive. Tell me, how much would a family of four need? in dollars, how much would it cost today for a family of 4 if they were willing to live by the standards of 1950? My prediction and my expectation is that you will tell me not much. You'll probably tell me 1 or 2 minimum wage. That means $8 to $16 an hour would be enough to feed a family between 2 and 4 people. And it's not illegal. There's no law that says you have to have cable, you have to have internet, you have to have a cell phone. There's no law that says you have to be entertained. There's no law that says you have to take your kids to McDonald's or Disneyland. Now, your kids are going to hate you for not keeping up with the Joneses, but it's not illegal. The only thing stopping you from living 1950s is your desire, your greed, the standards that we've come to become used to today. So if I'm wrong, please correct me. But I believe life is better today because life is cheaper today than it was in 1950. The only reason life is not cheaper, or seems like life is not cheaper than it was in 1950 or 1900 or 1800, is because our standards have gone up. We desire more. We expect more. We don't make less, adjusted for inflation or not. We just want more. And if we were willing to live like we did in 1950, 1900, or 1800, we can spend literally a fraction of our income and work a fraction of the time that we do in exchange for what was acceptable in 1950 and 1900 and 1800. Thank you for your input. I appreciate it in advance. I hope I'm wrong, and I'd like you to correct me, because I simply don't understand why people think that life was better 50 or 60 years ago, or 100 years ago, because it just doesn't make sense to me. Today, whatever we want that was available back then is cheaper, unless it was an antique. The point is, if living meant shelter, surviving, and showering to be sanitary, which was basically all you had 6 or 8 decades ago, we've made that pretty cheap today. So if I'm wrong, please tell me what you think and tell me what I'm missing out on. I would appreciate it, because I really want to know. Thank you.